Today, I want to share my research on forgiveness with you and how forgiveness can help us become powerful when we are in a powerless situation. About 4 years ago, I wrote a blog about education and shared some of my thoughts on it, and it went viral. It has been viewed more than 110,000 times and was shared more than 27,000 times. Before I could celebrate being famous, the first time ever in my life, this turned me an unexpected situation. Among my thousands of comments, there's this one reviewer showed an extreme interest in my writing and kept talking to me about it. I was more than happy to engage with this conversation at first, but later on, things get a little bit weird. He began to stalk me on the internet and used all the methods he could find my personal information. My personal blog, my Chinese Twitter, and my Skype number. He then began to send numerous messages to me and kept calling me day after day. I tried to be polite at first and answered his calls, but soon I realized he was making my life horrible. He spent hours and hours arguing with me and telling me all the things I care about was totally wrong. I feel like he was trying to brainwash me. So I got tired of his calls, but he got even more annoyed when I ignored them. Then things get really ugly. He began to write paragraph after paragraph on all my social media platforms and call me idiot B-words. That was really terrible. And I don't know what to do. And he said if I keep ignoring his calls and messages, he would keep threatening me, my friends, my family, my classmates, my professors, all the people I can imagine who are around me. Man, that was the first time I ever felt the power of the internet. In a bad way. I feel like a fragile kid and was so powerless at that moment. I don't know what to do and how to stop him. I hope I could hack his computer and make it explode. But it does not seem realistic, right? So I came to my friends and asked for help. Among all my friends, most of them offered me the same solution. They said, just pretend he does not exist. He was in China, and you are here in the US. Just forgive about his actions. Forget about it, and move on with your life. I tried to apply my friend's suggestions. I ignored his calls. I ignored his message on my Skype. I ignored all the comments he gave under my blog post. But this approach did not bring me peace. I was living in fear. Every day when I checked my messages on my phone, or when I surfed the internet, I was so scared that this guy would use another name or another number and keep harassing me after I blocked him. I was so scared that he would carry out all the things he said he would do and make my friends and family suffer. So does all my experience means it's wrong to forgive? It's the forgiveness that put me in an even worse situations and make me powerless. Yes, but also no. Yes, because with that kind of forgiveness, it did not take me out of that cage. But also no, because it's when you wrongly define forgiveness, it makes you powerless. And if we can look at forgiveness in a slightly different way, it will suddenly become a powerful tool for you. So, what is forgiveness? Through my research, I have read hundreds of papers in psychology, management, marketing, and sociology. Among all the papers I read, there are tons of definitions of forgiveness. But one definition keeps arising again and again. And it said, forgiveness means let the wrongdoer not suffer from the wrongdoings and not meeting our punishment. So, if that's the case, then it may explain why I didn't feel better. And that definition of the forgiveness will surely have some interpretations and implications to some of my results of my study. My research with Dr. Heatherhu and Dr. Sood found out that powerless people tend to forgive more when facing wrongdoings, and they seek less revenge. So through my research, we randomly put participants into two groups and asked them to recall either powerless or powerful situation, and they write down what was happening to them. Then we guided them to read a scenario where one of their teammates did some wrongdoings towards them. And after that, we asked them to tell us how much forgiveness they want to show to this wrongdoer. Studies after studies showed exactly the same result, that powerless people tend to forgive more than the powerful ones. So does all those results, taking them together, tell us forgiveness can be seen as a sign of weakness, a sign of low status, a sign of compromise, a sign of powerless? And if that's the case, it will certainly explain why I never felt better. Because forgiveness did not help me to get rid of all those fear and anger I have. But that's a moment I realized. It's when you wrongly define forgiveness, it makes us powerless. Forgiveness has to be redefined. Forgiveness has to be redefined. So, forgiveness should be redefined as forgiving the person for what was happening in that situation. When we redefine the forgiveness like this, we're no longer forgiving the action that wrongdoer carried to us, but more likely, we are forgiving what was happened to us. This turns forgiveness into a choice from being passive, where you are a powerless person left out with the only option but to forgive, into an action. When I finally realized that, it suddenly hit me why those powerless participants in my research responded with high agreements on the statement like this. Let me read some of them to you. Although she hurt me, I am putting the hurt aside so we could resume our relationship. I have released my anger so I can work on restoring our relationship to health. Those powerless people are forgiving, not because they're weak, but instead they're empowering themselves after forgiving, by forgiving not what the action the wrongdoer was carrying, but what happened to them. And that's when they become powerful. And that's when their inner fear and anger melt away. Forgiveness is not simply forgetting. And it should not be a passive action. It should not be a sign of weakness, but instead, a word of power. It should be an active action that we choose as a tool to help us become powerful in our most powerless situation. So, when I re-examined my situation, I realized I did have this one power over him, that I could forgive him for what happened. And by doing that, I'm freeing myself from the anger and fear. It had allowed me to escape from the cage I was in. And that what made me powerful, to stop the malice, to stop the anger and fear. I ended up responding one of his messages that, I don't want to fight with you anymore. I really don't. But you should be ashamed of what you did to me. You should be ashamed of all those unreasonable malice towards me. But I forgive you and will pray for you because this cycle has to end. This pain has to be ended. He didn't stop harassing me immediately after I sent him this message. But his power to make my life suffer stopped at that moment. I become the powerful one in this situation by forgiving what happened to me, by escaping from the cage of that inner fear and anger. It was in that powerless situation that I learned I have this one power of forgiveness. And forgiveness is not simply let the transgression go, but let yourself go. Face it head on, accept it, and use your power to stop the malice, stop all the things that are happening on you. It may not be easy, and you may not feel ready to forgive, but that's okay. Forgive should not be something like you're forcing yourself or others. But keep in mind that when you don't want to hang on with all those negative emotions, you do have one power of forgiveness. You do have this one option that can make you powerful, even in your powerless situation. It's not about letting the transgression go, but it's about letting yourself go, freeing yourself from that cage of anger and fear, all those negative impacts. Because after all, you have a journey ahead of you, and you don't want to keep yourself in that cage where you were, and with all those anger and resentment. You have a life in front of you. And by using the power of the forgiveness, it can help you become powerful, even in an otherwise powerless situation. Thank you.